Welcome to another inspiring episode of the Black Empowerment Hub podcast. I'm Jacqueline Malone, CEO of Blind Resistance Clothing Brand, where our tagline for the culture by the culture reflects our unwavering commitment to empowerment, sustainability, and uplifting underserved Black communities. Thank you for tuning in. Remember to hit the like button, subscribe, and click the bell icon so you'll never miss an episode. We've got an empowering conversation lined up today that you won't want to miss. Stay tuned, and we'll be right back after this short message.
This episode is brought to you by the Support Black Excellence Foundation and their Support Excellence Initiative. At the Support Black Excellence Foundation, we're on a mission to foster a brighter future for all, particularly in underserved Black communities. Through strategic partnerships, mentorship programs, community service projects, and financial initiatives, we are committed to driving meaningful change where it's needed most. We invite you to join us in this remarkable journey of progress and transformation. Together, we can turn our vision into a reality. Let's shape a future that is equitable and inclusive, where empowerment, elevation, and excellence intersect to create a legacy of positive change. Thank you to the Support Black Excellence Foundation and their Support Excellence Initiative for sponsoring this podcast.
Welcome back. I'm thrilled to introduce today's extraordinary guest, Dr. Reginald F. Rush, Vice President of Client and Community Relationships at DivIHN Integration Inc. Dr. Rush is a newly minted Doctor of Philosophy and a certified business and entrepreneurship coach. He is widely admired for his expertise in business, technology, and diversity leadership. With over 30 years of experience advising mid-cap and Fortune 500 companies, Dr. Rush has a proven track record of driving business success through innovation and inclusion. Beyond his corporate achievements, he is passionately committed to creating STEM opportunities for underserved communities and mentoring the next generation of leaders. Dr. Rush's dedication to leadership, diversity, and community empowerment positions him as a transformative force for positive change. Please join me in warmly welcoming the remarkable Dr. Reginald F. Rush. Welcome, Reggie.
Thank you so much for the invitation to be able to chat with you today about some good topics.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. I want to start this interview with a question I've always wanted to ask about you. What other career paths might you have taken if you weren't in the tech and business world?
That's interesting because I wanted to be an architect, believe it or not. Just the sheer beauty of buildings and sculptures and things of that nature has always interested me. I'm surprisingly very good with my hands. I do a lot of home renovations and things of that nature. I've been doing that all my life. So I like taking something and building something. So that's what I would have done. However, I'm still today, currently in my career, taking something and building something. So
I was going to say that. I said, that's exactly what you're doing. Transforming things, building everything. All right. So let's dive into your background. Can you share your journey and how you came to your current role as Vice President of Client and Community Relationships at DivIHN Integration Inc?
Sure. I'm a Chicago City school kid. Grew up in Chicago. Went to Bowen. Later on, transferred out to the south suburbs and graduated from a school out there called Rich Central. It's been quite a while since my graduation. Went to school, Midland College, and when I came back home, I fell into a summer job working in a factory, believe it or not. And I was doing exceptionally well, making great money. However, I had a foreman there, Mr. Al Ciccinelli. We called him the Chick. And he would always ride me like he didn't like me. And one day I said, Chick, I said, what's going on with you and me? He looked at me and said, Rush, you're too smart to be here. Don't be here like me. Look at me. You get out of here. That right there was a pivotal moment for me. And I did leave, and I did start a career in sales. Started in, believe it or not, automobile sales. So I've done sales in autos, new cars, used cars, ran the used car lot, assistant manager of the dealership, left that, and then I went into pharmaceutical sales. So I've been in the sales stream for a long time. Um, I think when I fell into technology, I was in national account. Nope, I take that back. I was a district manager, and we were able to take their POS data and utilize it to build presentations. And boy, you gave me some data and I went crazy. My team went crazy. And we had some great accomplishments by using technology and data and analysis and things of that nature. So then I fell into that and got tired of being the only dark face in the room, Jacqueline, in corporate America. And you know how that goes. And during my tenure in corporate, that was very prevalent. It's just every time I looked up, I was the only one. Every time I looked around, I had to hear the corny jokes and things of that nature. And it just got tiring. So I jumped. I left corporate America and went to work for a good friend of mine that had been asking me to come work for him for years. And he was in the staffing industry. And that's how I really got into tech. Staffing was entertaining for me. But again, as I said earlier, building things was really my sweet spot. So becoming this trusted advisor, solutions guy, and being able to sit down with professionals and look at the business problem and find a technology solution, that's what I truly love. So I ended up at DivIHN, where I do both.
That's a really amazing story. I'm so glad to hear all of that. I want to say that at some point, I think I remember this about you with the architect thing that we might have spoke about some years back or something. But that's really all the rest is really, really good to hear and to understand like your journey. It's actually really nice. So congratulations on earning your doctorate of philosophy,
Yeah.
honoris causa. Did I say that right? I said it wrong,
Hmm.
didn't I? What did I say?
Yes. Honoris
Say it.
causa. Honoris causa.
Honoris causa. Yeah, I was trying to make sure that I said this correctly
Hmm.
because I've heard so many different mispronunciations of it.
Yeah,
Uh,
and people that have earned their doctorate different than me, they're a little
mhm.
testy about those types of things. So
Yes, that's
um,
I was trying to make sure that I mentioned that.
they'll get
Uh,
over it.
yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
But you also have become a certified business and entrepreneurship coach, which I mentioned also at the top. Well deserved. You've had a remarkable career advising major corporations, but what's one defining moment in your journey that genuinely shaped who you are as a leader?
Hmm. I think the one defining moment, oh God, there were a couple, I guess, but I think the biggest one was working for Johnson Wax, SC Johnson Wax. And I was calling on Walgreens at the time. I was in national accounts calling on Walgreens. And my goal was to grow the business, of course. I'm in sales. So, again, looking at all their data, I saw some opportunities and I was able to go into Walgreens um, and take my competition out on the shelf when it came to the repellents and the anti-roach categories. And I convinced them with their data that they should only stock Raid, the number one product in the category, and their private label brand based on the way that people shop in drugstores. If they come in a drugstore for that product, they had a problem. And either they want the best because they've got the money, or they're strapped for cash and they're going to buy private label. That helped me grow that category that year, $2 million. Yeah.
Whoa, I have to talk to you. I'm going to talk to you after this on some things because I had it planned. I'm like, what's to take some notes when I get Dr. Reginald F. Rush on this podcast. Okay, we're going to talk for real.
Yeah.
Okay, as someone often viewed as a trusted business advisor, you mentioned that earlier. What qualities are essential for building and maintaining trust? And could you share a story where trust was pivotal in overcoming a significant challenge?
Yeah. I think the elements in trust are respect and boundaries, right? I think whether you're in business or your personal life, those are two things that make a difference. So some examples is I carry in my phone the cell phone numbers of a lot of C-suite people. Yet that's not my first choice to contact them unless we have developed that relation to a point where they say, Red, just call me on my cell. I respect the fact that I have it, but I only use it in emergencies. And I think people appreciated that. I think the other thing is if you say you're going to do something, just do it. Now, everybody drops the ball every now and then. Just but own your mistake when you go back to the person, and continue to be that consummate professional about it. Don't make a lot of excuses. And I think those things have been pivotal for me. I think the biggest thing is people always tease me, Reggie, you like to talk. You love to talk. That's why you're in sales. I said, I don't talk that much in sales. I listen a lot. Then I talk. And I think when people see that you care, they start to trust you as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. And I love that one piece when you're saying about not complaining because it's not, or it's looked at as complaining where you're constantly giving them problems. This is happening or this. Yeah, you can't do that. You need to come with results, solutions, or something to them because then you're looked at as a whiner,
That's it.
yeah,
Or this
you're just
pesky
whine. All they hear is
salesman.
whining. Yeah,
Yes, exactly.
yeah,
And then they start just when they see you, they run.
exactly.
And
They don't want to see you.
I've been in environments, Jacqueline, networking, talking with some C-suite people, and someone will come over to join the group, and one of those C-suite people will say something like, "Oh, do you know Reggie?" And I said, "No, I don't know." "Oh, you got to know Reggie. Everybody knows Reggie. He's the guy to know." So I can tell you that sometimes I am honored and just a little smitten by the fact that these very honoring people would make sure that I'm connected to their network as well. So that's always a nice thing.
Yeah, that says a lot about you. It says a
Mhm.
whole lot. So speaking of IT, I've spent many years in IT building teams and navigating them to reach critical and crucial goals. And I've been able to use both my leadership and technical skills to do so. Turning around failing IT departments requires more than technical expertise. Can you describe your approach to leadership in high pressure situations and explain how you create a culture of resilience and trust within your teams?
I think the first thing I do is stay calm in any situation, no matter what the level of the problem is. You got to stay calm and listen to everyone, including the person that's the janitor. You listen to everyone, right, to understand and truly get a understanding of what the landscape looks like that's causing the problem. And then you look for opportunities on how we can do it, and you ask them questions. Well, what if we did this? What if we did that? You mentioned this earlier. What if we did that, right? And then you build on that, almost like a Lego approach to a successful solution, and then you execute it. And the reason I say I like asking those questions and building almost like a Lego, because what ends up happening is you take pieces from everyone in the room to build that solution, and then you get total buy-in. So it's not a leader coming in the room saying, well, we're going to do this to fix it. No, it's the team saying this is the best way to fix it. So the buy-in is much better and they work a lot harder. But the best result out of that is they feel like I'm a leader allowing them to use their expertise to solve problems. and I'm not getting in their way. So I think those two things are key elements for me throughout my life. One other thing too, I'll throw on that I just thought of. I was in an interview some time ago, and someone said, there's a number of leadership styles and how you lead people. And they said, what's your preferred style to lead someone? And I said, I don't have a preferred style. I said, because I have to lead the individual, and one size does not fit all. Everybody needs to be led in a different way. So you have to really focus on each individual as you become a leader as well, and lead them in a way that they need to be led versus some cookie cutter approach to leadership.
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And there might be some general foundational things that you do, like you just mentioned before that statement, that an approach that you take, because I often take those same approaches even with building smaller teams. So it doesn't change there how your approach is, but whom you are leading or coming in to assist, that is very different because it's a cultural thing that you're looking at.
Exactly.
And you have to
Exactly.
adapt to what that culture is or possibly influence its change.
Hmm.
So, yeah. All right. In today's rapidly evolving world, innovation is critical. How do you balance guiding your teams effectively while fostering a culture of creative collaboration, particularly within diverse groups? And can you share an example of how this approach led to standout success?
Yes. So I think going back to what I said earlier, leadership is about individuals first. So getting everyone in that room and in that on that team to vocalize what they feel and what they think, especially the one that's quiet, right? I think oftentimes you're going to have in a group, you're going to have a very vocal person all the way down to that quiet person, and you have to try to find a way to, without being rude, you want to turn down the vocal person because sometimes they can take over, and you want to try to find ways of turning up the quiet person. So one of the things that I've done is almost like at a funeral service. Okay, we're all gonna have some input. We're gonna go around. You each have about 3 minutes, 5 minutes, depending on how much time we have for this problem, and be able to put some things on the table. And I'll get someone to kind of write it on the whiteboard, right? So we can get all the ideas on the table first. That way, you don't have the person that talks a lot take over, and the quiet person gets to vocalize what they are. And often it's those quiet people that have the best ideas, right? But then you take those and then you kind of build out again that plan, as I said earlier, utilizing everybody's input to kind of Lego build the building and get the solution that you need that's going to drive the and fix the problem.
Yeah. And I like to do bringing them in individually and speaking to them as well, because people tend to let their guard down when it's a one-on-one type of situation and you get more out of them, especially if you say, hey, it's just a conversation between you and I, and just a get to know you kind of experience, and you
Yes.
find out a whole lot.
And I do those conversations. I started out young in my career, of course, doing them in my office. And then I found that, let's go somewhere, grab a cup of coffee or something, a soda or something, and just sit there and chat, because people let their guard down then, and the conversation is actually a lot more beneficial.
It
Yeah.
is. It really is. You get you get further much quicker when you do that, and then you bring the teams together and everybody's feeling good because now they trust you. It just really is a great bridge in coming into like new groups or new teams, or when you're introduced to them.
Yes.
Let's talk about your board affiliations and community impact. Could you share how these affiliations align with your commitment to community empowerment and leadership?
Ooh, well, I think that, giving back um, is part of my DNA. Um, I grew up without a father in my life. Um, that was a challenge growing up in the city of Chicago without a good male lighthouse, right, to lead and follow, right? Um, just so happened I got lucky and I started dating a young lady. She was a freshman, I was a sophomore at Bowen, and her father's name was Joseph Leonard. He worked for Arthur Anderson. He was the first African American man I've ever met that wore a suit and tie every day to go to work. He owned a home over in Chatham, had a wife and two daughters, this pristine home. And he and I got close to where his daughter and I broke up. He and I stayed close. He ended up co-signing for me to get my first car. So when you think of the hand up that this man gave me, not just in co-signing, but the knowledge and the business persona that I gained from him at a young age, you you owe it to give back, to pay it forward. So I've always been involved in nonprofits that allow me to do that in a way that I can utilize my talent to do that, whether it's the leadership piece, whether it's the sales piece. So I often end up helping them raise money, find funding, things of those nature. Yeah. So that's really how I got into it and why I do it.
Yeah, you are a wonderful man. I will state that about you. There's so
Thank you.
much that I can say about you in general, so I'm not surprised that that's an area of giving back that is near and dear to your heart because it really is just who you are. And I called you Reggie at the top. I meant to still be respectful and call you Reginald on the podcast, but I know you as Reggie, because you're just a great person, down to earth. And I just want to make that point of that to say this on the podcast about you, that I appreciate you so much, just like everyone else does in the
Thank you.
community and in corporate world. You're very loved, and
Thank you.
it's because, not because of just what you can do, but it's the man that you are, like who you are at heart. And so people pick up
Let's
on that and they
touch
know that.
point on the Reggie piece because I want to talk about that,
Yeah.
especially now that I have the doctorate. I've always gone by Reggie. I think it's a lot more friendly versus Reginald. Um, I utilize my titles based on the environment that I'm in. Please call me Reggie. We've known each other a long time, and most people ask them to call me Reggie. If I go into a corporate room, I'm going to either be Reginald, Vice President, or I'm going to be Dr. Reginald, Vice President, depending on who's in the room. And unfortunately, we have to do those things because in this world, titles carry a lot of weight. In all honesty, it's just a title. You can get them, you can lose them. That doesn't define who I am. And I've known people who have climbed the ladder, got these great titles, and then they were in a rift and lost their job and their title. And they almost lost their mind because that's who they were. They wrapped themselves around the title. I'm going to wrap myself around who I am as an individual. Um, I tell people I'm not going to allow other people change and affect the Reggie that I've always been. Right. So titles are just that. It's something that somebody gave you and you have to use them as a tool.
That's right. That's
Hmm.
right. That's not who you are. That's just like you said, just a title.
Hmm.
I always say that too. I had another high profile person on the podcast, and we were talking about that too. And it is not the title that makes who you are. And I'm so glad you made mention of that piece, that people will have a title. If they lose it, they almost lose their minds, because they do. People literally commit suicide over
Yes.
having a setback, financial setback or anything. And that's just too much to look at. And we really have to look at the world bigger than what is just in our immediate purview of what we're working in. And that's why mental health is such an important thing
Oh my God.
for us all. I don't care what level we are. We really have to tap into that, because in the corporate world, and even though this is not planned for this podcast to even mention this right now, but in this corporate world, it can bring heavy weight. A lot of anxiety, stress, and things of that sort can come into play in it. But we really have to take care of ourselves while we're going out into the world and doing these uh, jobs, working these positions, and all of that. We really have to take care of ourselves and be mindful of who we really are, why we're doing what we're doing, why we are in the position we're in, given the platform we're giving. Why is that? Being grateful and also taking a step back to understand, who am I becoming in the moment of all of this, or who have I became in the moment of all of this? Is this someone I really wanted to be? So it's just a
Yeah,
lot there.
it is. But I think the topic does belong in this leadership space, right? Because if you can't mentally keep your composure, right, as a leader, you're not going to be effective. And I've seen them. I've seen those leaders, and we've seen the leaders, especially in sports and coaching. They throw chairs. They're cursing. They're just gone crazy. I never ever said I wanted to be that kind of leader. I wasn't that kind of parent. I'm not going to be that kind of leader. I think results are you're going to get better results with sugar versus the other stuff, as my granddaddy always said, right? So I think it's very important that the mental capacity of a person, we talk about, EQ and IQ, both are very important. And I'm going to say the emotional side is probably more important as you become a strong leader. You have to be in tune emotionally to people in order to lead effectively.
That's right. That's
Mhm.
absolutely right.
Yeah.
Um, I think we both have some doozies of stories
Oh, yeah.
that we can tell. I
Well,
have seen
this
some things.
podcast ain't long enough for probably for both of us
Woo!
to put on the table.
Yes, I have
Mhm.
seen some things. So at least we know what not to do. So there's good
Yes.
and bad. I will make this point about learning about leadership before I move on. Uh, I remember coming up and being able to view both good leadership in front of me and negative. I had a lot of negative leadership displayed in front of me coming in, but I knew who I was, for one, and I knew what type of leader I didn't want to be. So I still
Mhm.
learned a lot in those moments, even though it was really negative experiences. I learned so much.
Mhm.
And so I took that and I always remembered that. I didn't want to forget those moments, those experiences that I had, and then I also took a moment to understand what they might have been going through, the pressures they
Yes.
may have been under. We don't know what they're going through in their lives, personally or professionally.
That's
So
exactly
we give
right.
a little grace there. So that's the way I kind of approached it and took it, so it didn't damage me moving forward. And so a lot of people will take in that kind of activity and become that themselves. And so then it just perpetuates this negative approach to leadership.
The key word that DivIHN, if you look on our website, we talk about how we deliver our solutions with excellence and grace. The grace part is so important in leadership. The grace part is so important in collaboration, and the, the grace part is so important in just accomplishing a lot of things. I think that a graceful approach, you use these on both sides of your head. You use your ears a lot better, and I think it helps you pace yourself in a more compassionate way as you're listening to the problem from the other side of the table. So grace is very important. I know from a corporate perspective, you don't hear that a lot, but I do love the fact that that is what DivIHN truly believes, the grace piece, and I think that's why I've been with them since 10 years now.
Wow, that's really beautiful. Says a
And
lot
even
about divine as well.
it does, and even the grace is helps us spill over into the community work. Um, and the community work that we do, it's real interesting because we're having a meeting and we had lunch, so we were just kind of getting to know each other at lunch. And the number of leaders in that room that were involved in some kind of nonprofit and giving back, they all were. So it was almost, I said, wow, this is part of our DNA as an organization, because it's something seemingly we all believe in, because everyone was involved in something. And one gentleman, again, he's Indian. This guy has started three nonprofits in Black communities. So when you talk about diversity and giving back, I don't think that my leaders see the lines. I think they sometimes fall upon their own culture, but I think for the most part, and I can say this, I've seen my company do more in the community than some Black organizations I know and I'm close to. And that warms my heart, um, just because I see them wanting to give back.
Yeah, that's nice. I love that you are talking about the leadership, the nonprofits, how they give back, because people don't know that. It actually really does exist in the corporate world. I love that you brought up the diversity piece of like the Indian. I've seen folks that don't look like me doing a lot of great work in the community. I've been out there and I'm seeing who's actually being effective and who's being ineffective. And there's a lot that I see that I'm very surprised about of what's happening or how their approach is to certain things, and which makes me think about how I want to approach things for my foundation. So it's just it's a big learning experience for one, but I am glad to hear and to actually see on my own that type of diversity, because it takes all of us. It
Hmm.
is not just this skin color. It takes all of us to come together to produce this greatness and to elevate and empower and inspire and move us to that next level, because we will need each other.
That's
So
right.
that divisive thing, it has to go. We have to warmly welcome one another in, and spotlight where help is needed the most. That
Mhm.
is the key. And that's what we do. We look at where is help needed the most in this moment in time, and then you elevate from there. Okay, so I'm going to just roll this question out.
Mhm.
So, how do you see the intersection of corporate success and community involvement? And what lasting impact do you hope to make beyond your professional achievements?
So I think the piece about seeing what community work does for an organization and for a team, I find that, and I've had conversations with people that they go out to give and they walk away with more than they thought they would. They learned something, right? They get in these situations to give the people that are at some type of disadvantage, right? Whether it's income related, whether it's mental capacity, uh, down on their luck, whatever arena that they're coming from. But you start to engage with these people, and you walk away sometimes. And I've seen, especially people in corporate America, walk away with a different view of people that don't look like them, because they get to know them and they understand that this is not an issue because of them being a woman or their race. It's a situational thing that they're in. And even I or my family member could have fallen into that situation. So I think the giving piece is more of a learning for your organization, um, and the compassion that you get from that. And when you come back with that compassion, and then they're working with their teams and leading their teams, that kind of rubs off on them, and you can see them becoming better leaders because they've digested that. So that's where really allowing your team to be in the community, and they come back with a better understanding. I think the other piece that I've seen is it makes people understand that all work is not healthy, and that you do need to stop working and share your blessing and share opportunities and share serving food and things of those nature. And because again, it makes you a better person when you do those things. We live in a I'm going to say a kind of a step on your toe, maybe step on your head kind of a world to get ahead. And I think when people have leadership that say, no, I want everybody in the company to pause this week. We're going to focus, you get hours. Some people get hours that they can go out and actually volunteer. And I think those things build good demeanor, build good, compassionate, open-minded people when they come back into work. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does make sense, a lot of sense, and it's wonderfully stated as well, and needed for us. I want to move into the diversity and inclusion piece, and I know we touched on that just a bit.
Mm-hmm.
How have you seen the corporate world evolve in diversity and inclusion over the past 2 decades? And in your opinion, what is the next frontier for organizations striving for genuine transformation?
Um, how are they doing corporately? They're struggling still, Jacqueline.
I knew something was going to be up.
Yeah, they're still struggling. I think that I'm not sure how we're going to get our arms around that, because the biggest problem with diversity and inclusion is the fear that people have, the personal fear. I mean, there are a ton of studies that has shown and proven that diverse teams produce better results, better revenues. Um, but people still can't buy into that because they're fearful that if I let too many of this race in, then my race is not going to have opportunity. Those kinds of things, and people don't really realize the position we're in. And let's take technology. Jacqueline, we don't have enough people to fill the jobs that we have currently today and that we're going to have in the future in technology. So we've got to do something different. But until people wrestle with that fear, and I'm not sure how to help them with that. DivIHN is a diverse organization. We're in that space, and even from a even from a project related perspective, people still struggle doing business with us. We've been around over 20 years. Our statement of work record, we boast a record of over 95% repeat business from our customers in that space. That says we're doing something right. 95% of our customers come back to us after we do a project to do another one. The struggle for us is getting in the door the first time, getting them to trust us, getting them to say, we hear this, well, you're a small company. Well, we're still a mid-sized company. We're not small. We're not operating out of our garage. So those are the barriers that get in the way for diversity and inclusion, whether it's hiring. We always hear the term of, well, we can't find diverse talent to hire, right? And I remember talking with a VP of talent acquisition at a very large corporation in Chicago, and he had asked me to help with that, or asked the company to help with that. And we were having a business review. And he says, Reggie, we still seem to be struggling. I said, I think from a leadership standpoint, you want to bring in diversity. But when my team put diverse candidates in front of your hiring managers, they don't understand that you're trying to change the dynamics of the team because their statements is they're not a fit for the team. And I said, if they're going by the team they have, diverse people will never fit because they're looking at the people, not the talent. And I said, we've got to find a way around that. So as long as we have that struggle, Jacqueline, it's going to be an ongoing issue. And I think the other thing, and I'll pick on my Black women right now,
Mm-hmm.
only from the piece of white males and white women, if they have like 70% 60% of the requirements, they're going to apply for the job. Black people and black women are way down. They have to have like 195 or 100% of the skill set before they will go and apply. And so that also is a barrier, right? So we have to encourage our black and brown people, and especially our sisters, that, hey, you can do this job, because you're not going to go into every job knowing 100% of the responsibilities. That's why it's an opportunity to learn something every time you move up, right? And then a last piece I'll say on that spot is, I think we need to look at how we're interviewing and look at how we look at resumes. We've been using resumes for how long now, Jacqueline? They haven't changed that much. I mean, the only change is they say, well, keep them down to 2 pages if you can. That's not a change. And I think what happens in that is we've gotten lazy in our hiring, because the executive will say, we need a new director for this open role. The hiring manager will then go out to the talent acquisition team and say, I need a new director to fill the role. Here's a requirement. That talent acquisition team will jump on the boards and on LinkedIn, and they'll be looking for directors to hire. Well, if from a diverse perspective, if we don't have enough diverse people in the VP roles, the CI roles, CIO roles, or C-suite roles, or director roles, and people are going out looking to replace people in that space, they'll never really look down into the diverse community, because they're just stealing one director or C-suite person from another company, bringing them over there. So the category is still in the same situation. We have low percentage of participation. And I think they don't understand that the opportunity to find, if I needed a director personally, I'm going to have my team go out and look for strong managers and senior managers, people that maybe have a 5-year, 8-year career in that space. They haven't been given the opportunity. They're probably very talented, and I'm going to be the one to bring them up and give them the opportunity. Number one, they're probably going to blow the job away because they're talented and they've been waiting for the opportunity. And number two, you talk about retention. They're going to honor me, honor the company, because we gave them the opportunity. So I think we need to do a deeper dive into how we're hiring, the processes that we're hiring. The best interview I had, I walked into the CEO's office for the final interview. And of course, I had my portfolio with my printed copies of my resume, and I'm on top of it, Jacqueline. I was like, yeah, I'm feeling good. And he came out from behind the desk and he sat in the chair next to me. I thought, oh, that's interesting. And then I said, I noticed you don't have a copy of my resume. And I opened my portfolio and give him one. He says, I didn't want one. I said, you didn't want one? He said, Reggie, if I, at my level, have to look at your resume to see if you're right for this job, I got some people I had to go fire right now. You shouldn't be sitting in my office if you weren't qualified. He said, my conversation is not about your work history. My conversation is about, what do you think you contribute to this organization and to the team that you're going to be on? Jacqueline, that blew me away. I never had anyone at that level interview me. But when you think about it, right, that's really the question you should be asking anybody that's a director and above, not about your work history. Tell me how you can, what talent of yours can you bring to this organization that can help us? And let's talk about that. So those are the kind of elements that kind of murky the waters around the whole diversity and inclusion space. And I think we have to change how we interview. When people come to me and they're looking, first thing I do is get their resume. I send them a copy of what I call an executive bio. And it's quite a little different than a resume, because it talks about those things I mentioned, and it talks about their work history, has a space about this big. So we do talk about their work history, but I want the bulk of the conversation to be around what kind of leader you are, what kind of strategies you believe in, how do you think you can help this company, why this company versus another company, because those are the things, if you're trying to hire and build a good executive team, those are the things I think you want to know.
Yeah, and it really makes sense too at that level to approach it that way, because you're beyond the normal. What are the day to day things you can do? We already know you can do those. You've proven you've achieved that portion of it. So we're trying to take the company forward. So how can you help us elevate in that way and make
Exactly.
things better? I like that. And you know
Hmm.
I have to touch on that black woman thing.
Okay,
So
come on.
the reason I'm going to say this part, I think it goes back to because I understand that what you're talking about there.
Hmm.
Um, but it goes back to, are they going to look for any reason to disqualify me? I
Yes.
have to have everything in order. And sometimes recruiters will tell you, well, do you have this? Will you have? I'm like, I have all of these other elements, which means I can do that too. I have had so many recruiters that say, can you just add this on your resume? Can you? No, I don't want to misappropriate who I am, my resume and say that something that's not true on there. But at the same time, I want to prove that I am willing to work and reach that next level, and I can do it. I wouldn't be applying if I didn't think that I could do this. So we always want to have a three focus thing. One is it going to be a challenge? Are we getting that challenge when we go into that next role? Because you should want to be challenged in something. Is it going to be a learning experience for you? And can you use your current experience to help elevate that? So I always look at those three fold things and to know that this is a great opportunity for me next because I get those three initial things in it. Because who
That's
wants to
right.
be in a position where you're just doing the same thing that you did in the last position? You need to be challenged. You need to learn more. You need to be able to also use what you have. So I agree with you as well that take the initiative, push forward, even if you don't have it on your resume. But then I
Mhm.
understand the psyche of, oh, you don't have X, software or something like that. Next, we have had that happen
Oh yeah,
too.
it happens all the
So
time.
it's,
I've
yeah.
coached not last year, year before last. I coached 5 women from that manager level to director, senior director, and one went from senior manager to a VP role. And one of the things that we know that executive wants, right? They're concerned about your background, but here's what they're really concerned about: can you hit the ground running?
Mm-hmm.
Is my team, is my current team, gonna have to spend a lot of time getting you up to speed?
Mm-hmm.
So what I try to tell people to focus on is that question. Say probably the question you haven't asked me is, can I hit the ground running? The answer is yes. Here's why, here's how, and here's why, and here's where I've done it before in other roles that I had to get up to speed and I had some gaps in learning. And you talk about those and the way that you handled those in the past. And I guarantee you, Jacqueline, all those other little check the box kind of things that you don't have will fade away because they are just, again, tools. The software is a tool. You can learn the tool, right? A CRM is different maybe from the CRM you were using at the last company, but it was a CRM. You're going to learn those things, right? So if you can take that ambiguity away from that leadership team and help them understand, no, I can come in, I can hit the ground running. I'm not going to need a lot of hand holding. This is why I don't. And you'll cite some cases where you haven't needed to do that and you were successful. Those are the things that are going to help change the hiring perspective and the diverse perspective because they're going to say, I want this person on my team, right?
Yep. And I'll tell you too what has helped with that. At least I'll tell you about my experience. What has helped me with that is independent consulting. I have done years of that, and it's been absolutely wonderful because you get to go into these different cultures and you have these experiences with different synergies within the corporation and diversity. You get to experience international work as well as just regional and national and all of that across the board. And these big teams, the global teams. And so you get a lot of different experience that way, and learning how to adapt and learning how to multitask in bigger ways and using your strategy, and also being able to, like you say, hit the ground running, because you're there to bring a solution to a current problem. So it's not, let me sit for 5, 6 months and try to figure my way out of how to just log on to the computer. No,
Exactly.
you cannot do that. You need to come in the door, understand how to log on. All right. So, but that is what it is really. And that's, I just think for some folks who are, maybe second guessing their approach, that is for me, a way to approach it as well. Go out and experience different companies, experience how folks do different things, and take a look at your own self and what you need of how to be that person that can come in through the door with confidence and, like you say, hit the ground running. And if you're not there yet, practice that. Practice being
Exactly.
quick and decisive, and being and understand the company as a whole. What are they all about? What are
Hmm.
their what's the vision and mission of the company?
That's it.
I mean, that's important. You
It
need to
is.
know their core values and all of these things. So I just think all of that is and this is my entrepreneurship mind talking. See,
Hmm.
that's how I think like that. So I'm like, wait a minute.
Hmm.
Anyway, let's move on because I'll be talking forever. Um,
You're in a
let's
space that I
move.
could spend hours talking about it.
Right. You
Let's go back to one point on that.
okay.
I want to bring up an example of diversity and how corporations are focused on hiring and what they think hiring the right person. And they've been doing this same, they've had the same strategy for years, and they're still not where they need to be, nor do they, most organizations say, no, I don't have the team that I really want, right? So most of them, and back when you and I met, I was BDPA president. And so I was sitting with a gentleman who said, well, Reggie, I want to see all your kids with a 3.0 and above GPA. And I kind of smirked and I said, forgive me, I'm not laughing at you. I said, everybody wants those kids. I said, I don't have a hard time placing those kids at all. So I'll bring them to you, but I'll let you know you have to move quickly because everybody wants those kids. I said, but let me ask you a question. I said, what if I had a kid that had a 2.5, but I told you that this kid that has a 2.5 has a job. He's taking care of his brother and sister and his mother, and he's got a 2.5 GPA, and he rarely misses a day of school. I said, see, to me, that's your next VP. He's already experienced resilience. He's already understood how to juggle his schedule to get things done and accomplish things and move forward. I said, it's easy to sit and learn something and pass a test, but those skills are something that are life learned, and that person will be one of the best executives you had. And Jacqueline, I said that, he sat back in his chair, and I thought, okay, he's going to throw me out of here. He said, I never looked at it that way. So if you've got kids like that, bring them to me. Give me a short blurb on the story and bring them to me. And I wanted to talk about that because people spend a lot of time in hiring on diplomas, GPA. Most people have a diploma and have education in a space that they're not even working in. So why is that so important? And so I'm not saying it's not important. I'm saying, should we have the heavy weight of focus on that piece when there's other pieces to being successful in a career that we should be focused on? Just like recently they've gone and there was I think EY did the first one. They did a competition between a degreed technology team and a non-degreed technology team. You know who won. The non-degree team wiped them. So EY went back, and not only did they do it in their consulting, they consulted on this. Is they went to certain IT positions and said, let's take out the degree. Let's focus in on certifications. Let's focus in on experience. So those again are things that are going to open up the diversity opportunity for people. And I just want to kind of get that on the table as well.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you did stop to talk about that because that was important. I'm going to ask you one last question in this. I was going to skip this, but I think this conversation is really good. I think it's necessary. What is true diversity in the tech industry? How can community driven partnerships help overcome systemic barriers?
Mhm.
And if you have any impactful examples of that, share that.
Um, I think organizations like BDPA, Year Up, IC Stars, they all have their elements of helping with that. And it goes back to something I kind of alluded to earlier when I was talking about community work. When you can take executives who've lived in an environment where they did not rub elbows with diverse people, there's this a little bit of fear and a little bit of I don't really know them. So they're only going off things they've heard and read and think about that segment of people. But I think once they get involved in these programs and they see these young people from all walks of life, and they start to say, "Oh, they're people, not diverse people, but oh, they're people." I think when they start to see those things, they get a better perspective of I'm hiring a person, not a checking a box on a diverse number. I think I don't know how we get all of corporate America to do that and live in that space, but I think that's the space we need to move into. And it's a challenge. It's a huge challenge. Again, I state this, I'm not sure how we're going to get there, but we have to get there. It's not about doing the right thing. As I said earlier, there's been so many studies that prove that the outcomes of diverse teams are always better. So if a corporation really wants to have better outcomes and better teams and better offering to their customer, um, those leaders have to really tie in diverse objectives into their leadership teams because that's the only way they're going to happen. From a higher perspective, from a supplier perspective, you should be working with diverse suppliers. From a higher perspective, if you got a certain percentage of diversity on your team, you get a bigger bonus. People will start to make those hires in the right way once you tie money to it for them. It's unfortunate, but it's just true. Right?
Yeah, well stated. Let's move into STEM and workforce development.
Mm.
The Support Black Excellence Foundation has introduced a STEM education initiative to promote educational equity and expand access to valuable resources in underinvested communities.
Mhm.
Given your involvement in DivIHN's efforts to expand STEM opportunities, how do you see such initiatives shaping the future of diversity in technology? And again, if you have any inspiring success stories, share them.
I think they're key. I mentioned earlier we already have facing a uh, human resource problem. We've got
Mm.
tons of jobs. Technology is the fastest growing industry we have right now. Um, as an example, let's talk about information security. 8 years ago, you never heard of a CISO, Chief Information Security Officer. There was no such thing. So now, fast forward, not only do you have a swim lane for information security, you have a person that's making very good earnings leading those types of teams. Then you take a look at the team below it. We didn't have a lot of those roles. So we're trying to develop them and fill them as we're going. We're almost trying to build the plane while we got it in flight. So those types of things. And now we have AI that's hit the market. right? We're still behind the eight ball. You've got people that are running down the road with AI and they're benefiting. You have people in the middle that are still stuck trying to figure out, should I not? Should I? I've heard horrible things about AI. So when you have the ambiguity that we're going to have as we are growing at a fast rate in technology, we've got to find ways of bringing more people into the space. DivIHN, as an example, back when we had the Floyd incident, I'll put it that way, my CEO called me and said, Reggie, you see that a lot of CEOs are writing these letters on their intent to diversity and community. You know I'm not doing that. He says, you and Shantanu go out and find a way to do something that's going to have an impact. So we devised a program and we went into the community. We found 4 people, 2 Black women in Chicago, a Black male in Chicago, and an Hispanic guy out in California. And we put them through a training class. This is during COVID when our revenues dropped substantially. My CEO funded the program. We trained them, we got them certified, and we found them jobs. There was no revenue tied to that. It's not like we're offering a candidate because we're in the staffing arena. No, it's not that we want to get paid. We're offering you this candidate just to hire them. Here's their background, here's their training, XYZ. That went well. We did have a few hiccups. We are currently, and we've been kind of working on our second program, and it's going to be called Pathways to Career. We're launching it this year. We teamed up with an organization on the south side of Chicago, and we are going to be doing the same thing. We're going to be training, getting people certified, and finding them opportunities. It's important, and here's the key. A child can't be what a child can't see. If we don't go down and show them, tell them about the opportunity that they have in front of them with technology, how will they ever know? Going back to what we were talking about Black people in general and Black women, they think we don't have what it takes. They think that I'll never be able to get what it takes. I don't have the schooling. I don't have the money. I don't, all the things they don't have. Well, if we can go down and say, well, here is an opportunity because the class is not going to cost you anything. Here's the opportunity because we're going to pay them a stipend while they're in class. And here's the opportunity because we're going to help them find employment, which means I'll go back to the first program. One of the people in the program was a barista. We took them from this hourly earning that they had to a job that paid them $70,000 a year. She was in tears. That's impact. That's impacting, and that's changing lives. Those are the kind of programs that not just DivIHN, but I think every organization needs to really invest in because the benefit is theirs. They're creating an employment pipeline, not just for themselves, but for the whole community. So we have a great opportunity in front of us. I sat on an advisory board for Manpower, the largest staffing company or hiring company in the world. And one of the things that we agreed on a few years ago, it's going to take companies like ours to start training people and finding ways of placing them because corporate America doesn't have time to train anymore. They're moving so fast. They're working so lean. They don't have a lot of training programs. So if we're going to get people trained and prepare them for work today, who owns that? Somebody's got to own it. And it's companies like ours, companies like the Deloittes, the Accentures. We have to own that space and we have to do something that's going to have an outcome like I just mentioned.
To our listeners, thank you for tuning in to this impactful Black Empowerment Hub podcast episode. If today's conversation resonated with you, please take a moment to like, share, and leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you. What's one action inspired by Dr. Rush's insights that you think can help create meaningful change in our communities? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Of course, remember to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you'll never miss an episode filled with stories of empowerment, innovation, and progress. Stay empowered, stay involved, and always remember that real change begins with us, within our communities. See you next time.